And we are ready to party here. All right, we got the gameplay going. Welcome tonight, everyone, to the Xbox Roundtable Podcast, with this being show number 231. I'm Invader, and it's always a pleasure to see you all here, tuning into the best Sunday night Xbox talk show around. We got a lot of stuff to cover from over the past week, but first, let me wish all the dads here a happy Father's Day. To all the kick-ass wonderful fathers out there, you guys, you rock. And to all the fellas in the chat, and to all the amazing fathers on the panel, hey guys, I hope you had a great freaking day. Again, you guys are amazing, never forget that. So yeah, we got a lot of things to cover tonight to go over. Xbox had their extended showcase. We will tell you what we thought of it, give you our opinions. As well, Capcom and Final Fantasy, they had some stuff to show off as well in their separate streams. And we plan to touch on Blizzard's Diablo Immortal. It came out a couple of weeks ago, and we haven't had a chance to really touch on it, but hey, some news came out, some more news, and it'll probably be good to touch on it a bit. So yeah, lots to go over there. But first, stepping forward, let me introduce everybody on the panel, starting off with Centurion. Buddy, how you been?
Pretty good, man. Just been playing some ESO, hanging out with friends online, and just kicking back, enjoying what's being delivered to us as a gaming fan. And man, it's just been, I guess, a pretty chill week.
Yeah, no. Hey man, it's been pretty chill. Lots of games to play and lots of news to cover. Again, we will dive right into things. Moving on down here, Eric Shockley, buddy, how you been? Have you been having a good weekend?
Yeah, pretty good. Just got back from the dad's house, but yeah, can't complain. Can't complain. Just got some cleaning done and ready to get into some gaming talk today and get back to finishing that Turtles in Time. I've definitely been playing the arcade mode, the traditional mode where it's like you have no continues. But that's been pretty that gnarly mode is pretty challenging. So, but I do like the cool pickup they gave in there, so you can actually revive people who can do that, in the old games, obviously. So, but yeah.
All right. Yeah, I have that downloaded actually. It's ready to go, ready to fire up. I just haven't had a chance this weekend to give it a go. But honestly, again, I'm a huge fan of those going back to Turtles in Time and whatnot. Lots of vivid memories going back, that's for sure. But as I'm sure a lot of people in the chat and everybody tuning in can attest, certainly a classic. But yeah, no, that's gonna be one I'm gonna play during the next week. And who else do we got here? General MLD, buddy. Hey, have you been having a good weekend?
Oh yeah, well, it's a little bit of my parents, a little bit of the in-laws. My first Father's Day, so that was nice. Otherwise, just chipping away at Elden Ring, but definitely want to get into Ninja Turtles and finish Sniper Elite next week. That's for sure. So a lot of gaming to catch up on.
No doubt. Yeah. No, that was lots and lots of stuff to talk about. That Turtles in Time, man, it looks like a blast. But yeah, guys, Timmy, he may or may not be here. We're just waiting for him to file in. But you know what? Why, before we start things off, guys, remember, hey, let everybody know that we're live. So please, by all means, share this out. Let everybody know that we are good to go here. The show's about to start. And hey, drop a like. That always helps us out. And hey, again, sub to the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, guys, on that note, why don't we kick things off talking some Xbox, right, as we like to do. And a few days after the main Xbox and Bethesda show, Xbox had an extended segment. There were longer looks at some games already announced. There was some talks with developers and some new games showing off, some new trailers, some new reveals. So that was pretty cool. General MLD pal, I'll kick things off with you. Did anything stick out with you from the extended Xbox showcase? And Was there anything in particular, like any games, the developer talks, the reveals, and so on?
Well, it was definitely welcome that Xbox did this at all, because obviously this kind of stuff that if it was part of the main show, people might say that the show might be too bloated. But this is, if they marketed it perfectly, this is the kind of show where if you liked what you saw, like, here's more of it. Like, here's some more in-depth talks about it. So in that regard, I think they did pretty good here. But I think it's really interesting. Valheim coming to PC. I think they're really starting to court the PC market, especially coming off the Riot Games announcement the other week. So it's very clear what Xbox wants to do and the kinds of gamers they want to attract. Personally, I liked seeing the Stalker 2 update. I mean, that was a pretty nice update there, and they talk about the real world situation too, and then that was touching as well. But overall, I'm really looking forward to that. Big fan of the Metro series, and this is kind of similar to that in that kind of gameplay style. So, I mean, hey, I can always use more and more of that. So I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, they do all the little things. They talk about Redfall, Starfield, was it Naraka? That was good as well. Ara History Untold, again, another kind of PC kind of game that they want to court that kind of market. So it's good that they're making this. It's really, really clear. Flight Sim, was it Grounded had an update or so. I'm glad that game's finally coming out. Let's see if I can play that with some people online. Maybe with the missus. She always seems intrigued by that. Otherwise, yeah, just Texas Chainsaw Massacre, another day one Game Pass game. It's really impressive how Xbox just keeps these kind of day one games coming. Like, I don't know how much money these guys are spending, but the value is insane. Like, again, you don't have to like every game, but if you can only have like a few games per year, like you just broke even. And it is a great time to be into horror games this year going forward. Also, a standout for me was Pentiment. Obviously its art style is very unique. It might be an acquired taste, but if what is it? The backing behind it, if it's as choice driven as I think it's gonna be, I'm actually looking forward to that. It's not AAA, but I don't care. I feel like it's gonna be a very unique gameplay experience. So other than that, yeah, overall it's pretty good. I mean, Master Chief coming to Fall Guys, that was fun. That's cute and all, but it's kind of like, oh, come on, guys. Maybe we're getting Halo, we're getting Master Chief and not all these other games, but not Halo Infinite itself gain updates. I don't know. I just hope 343 can give us something concrete announcement wise later in the summer, hopefully. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, otherwise it's just solid updates on overall most of the games we've seen the showcase before. So yeah, I'm sure there was something for everybody. But overall, yeah, Stalker 2 and Pentiment were my highlights.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree. I was kind of expecting something for 343 to be there, something Halo related. And yes, I mean, I'm not complaining. Like, Fall Guys having like a Master Chief character and so on. I did appreciate the trailer that they did, because it was a kind of a play on the old Halo 3 Believe trailer, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cute, whatever. And it did leak beforehand, which kind of sucked, kind of ruined the announcement, unfortunately. But I was hoping for something actual Halo Infinite related. Obviously, I don't want to rush the developers by any means, and I don't want to come off like I'm criticizing. It just, I don't know, I was kind of hoping to see something from Halo Infinite, considering, I mean, I do enjoy the game very much so, and I want to see as much content as I can being pumped into the game. But I have to agree with you. Pentiment, the behind the scenes look of that unique historical murder mystery game, 2D side scrolling. I liked the look at the art style and whatnot. It was just a brief thing, but I thought it was pretty cool. And Ara, yeah, again, I'm pretty sure Crusader would agree with me here. Ara really has my interest. Ara History Untold, the new RTS game in development by Oxide Studios. We got more of a dev talk for that. They did show off like some snippets of gameplay, and I was like, yeah, it looks like very, very similar to like either like a kind of like a mix of Age of Empires meets Civilizations, and it looks very interesting to me. And Valheim coming to Xbox and PC, that's that's something, guys. I remember hearing about Valheim like a year ago. It was really doing well on the PC, and now it's coming to PC Game Pass, I believe, in the fall, and Xbox in the spring. So hey, it's not too far away, and hey, that game is pretty cool. I certainly want to check that out. Let's see here, Centurion Pal. I don't know if you got a chance to really look through the extended showcase, but if you did, like, was there anything that really stuck out to you?
Oh man. All right. The one thing that stuck out to me, everybody get your pillows because it's going to be like watching paint dry. I'm just glad to see that ESO is being acknowledged as a staple franchise, especially for Bethesda now. It's good to see Xbox is embracing that. And Xbox has actually made its changes to the franchise in a good way, something we'll get into on a later topic tonight. But it's good to see that ESO is definitely starting to pave its way as a good standalone MMO. That was one thing that excited me. I enjoyed pretty much the entire segment with Pete Hines talking about, how they didn't want to release Starfield or Redfall for that matter in a substandard condition. They really wanted to make that game be all that it can be. And, obviously the proof will be in the pudding when those games launch next year, if the delay was worth it. I'm pretty sure it will be. And I really look forward to those experiences that they went a little bit deeper into on, Starfield, and just how you could play the game any way you want. Same with Redfall. It's not like a predetermined linear, thing like Pete Hines was talking about. You can play these games any way you want, especially Starfield. The other thing that really, really excited me in this was sitting down and watching the interview with the developer over at a Squanch. Is that his name? Yeah, Squanch Games. One of the co-creators of, I believe, Rick and Morty, Justin Roiland. The game High on Life. Dude, that game looks really fun. And like I said earlier, dude, I'm probably going to be leaning into buying this game, even though it's going on to Game Pass. But I mean, just hearing him talk about how he doesn't know a damn thing about making games. He just knows how to make really good art and having creative freedom and stuff like that. And he wanted to have a studio that could basically help somebody in his position that could basically make really great concepts for games, but doesn't know the first thing about making them. And he wants to bring what, at least he said, a quality adult entertainment into gaming. And in my opinion, this is something that we don't see too often. Conker's Bad Fur Day, in my opinion, was probably one of the better iterations of this. And then we obviously have South Park, The Stick of Truth, South Park, The Fractured Butthole. I know how to say it properly. But yeah, just games like that really know how to interject good adult oriented humor into gaming. And I really want to keep developers like that alive. And so I will probably be one of the few that, even though this game is coming out in Game Pass, I'm not going to be the guy that stands, if you want to give the developer your money, that's your own choice. And that's a choice I'm making, because I don't want to see an art style like this disappear from gaming. And I'm really looking forward to this October with this game. And then my wife, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, that's right below on my notes. She was trying to understand the concept, and when I told her, I'm like, you're all running around in the house from one guy with a chainsaw. I know from listening to Tim Dog on RDX, he's excited for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was just a really good extended showcase. You walked into it not expecting to see groundbreaking stuff, but we did see some new stuff. At the end, we got to see that Stalker. At least Stalker is still alive and well in the hearts of gamers and developers. We all know that the developer has had a lot of trials and tribulations on trying to get this game over the finish line, especially when it comes to the situation going on over in their part of the world. And definitely, this was a good showcase. Also looking forward to Grounded. That was the other one. I remember playing that game when it first came out. Obviously, it's been in game preview for quite a while now. I could see the potential that was there. And now that we're going to get our full package in September, I'm probably going to make that my next time waster game. We all have them. We all know the games we play that we don't really talk about too much. And this one will probably take the place of one of the ones I've been playing for a while, which is that addictive crack game called Farming Together that I've been playing with my wife. And now I'm hoping in September to switch me and her over to Grounded. And it looks like it's going to be a really good game. I mean, the developers are definitely passionate about it. But anybody else catch with Obsidian how he said it's actually one of the smallest teams he's ever worked on at Obsidian? So it's actually crazy to like how he talked about how every person of the team is pretty much a designer because they don't have the manpower to have somebody that's not able to focus on everything.
Yeah, how big is that team? Like, do you remember offhand? I mean, like you said, it's small, but
I really do not know an actual number on it. But I was actually pretty surprised to see, like, when you saw him filming in the studio, like literally a room with like 3 or 4 guys with their backs to each other and they're just working in close quarters with each other. You could definitely tell it's a very close personal group of people that have been designing a passion project. And I feel like this is one of the things that makes Obsidian so special, that they have these little cells of development inside the company that are able to pump out a game like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting too that you brought up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's one that, again, I have an affinity for the IP as well. I like the films. Well, to be honest, more the old school films. And from what I gathered from the developers talk and whatnot, it's supposed to be a game that's similar to, I don't know if you've ever heard of was it Dead by Daylight, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of similar to that too, although it does kind of have Friday the 13th as well kind vibes to me, but there's kind of limited gameplay of it at the moment, so it's hard to tell. But yeah, that's something that I would like to check out personally. Shock Buddy, I don't know if you had a chance to check out the extended showcase. Do you have any thoughts on it? Was there any like personal highlights for you, or do you think they could have done more? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't catch too much. I think I caught more of the some clips that some people were passing around on Twitter, or some of the news that was coming from it. I think that's where they had showed some more of the extended with the creative director from Turn 10, kind of like clarifying, hey, Will, just to clarify it, we do have ray tracing like in gameplay. So that was cool to have him go in depth, the difference between just like ray tracing reflections that'll be in actual gameplay versus the ray tracing like global illumination, which will be more on like replay. So that was good to see. And then Stalker 2, did they clarify? I know they talked about how it's been like how it's been developing during what like they've had to go through. But I didn't catch, did they clarify if like they were planning to still make it this year?
Oh, I doubt it. It's definitely next year.
Yeah. I doubt. Yeah, comicbook.com released an article recently that actually physically shows some of the developers actually literally fighting the Ukraine situation.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, there was some pretty sad postings there, if I'm not mistaken. I saw some stuff and I was like, oh, it's what can you say? It's
I think that was in all response to some of the excuse me, I'm just going to be blunt, to some of the morons on social media that are basically tearing the developer down for not being able to meet the deadline for the game, with absolutely no idea that the developer is located in the Ukraine, and that pretty much Russia has pretty much effed that whole situation up for them. And now some of the developers are literally out there in combat fatigues with rifles defending their country. But you're right, they're definitely falling behind. They need to get their ass back in that developer seat and get that game for you this Christmas.
well, that's the thing, like, how can you, like, the expectations are, hey guys, safety first, don't worry about the game. Honestly, it sucks, obviously, but your lives are kind of more important.
Yeah. Like, before you have an opinion like that, maybe check where these guys are located. I mean, I'll admit myself, before the whole war happened, I thought these guys were maybe a Russian developer or something. But once you actually, they're actually in Ukraine. Okay, then, yeah, then you kind of manage your expectations a bit. But you got people who just blindly type on their keyboards or on their phones, not bothering to check.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, let them take their time. Like, it's no rush. My heart goes out to them, obviously, and there's a lot of stupid commentary on it. It's just, guys, it's just, obviously we talk video games nonstop. That's our, a big part of our lives, the hobby, Xbox, and so on. But you got to be understanding of the situations. Obviously, I'm not talking about anybody directly here, especially in the chat or whatnot. But there are some really silly things that are being said, and some people just need to take a step back and realize what they're saying, because it's one thing to be goofy on the internet, but then it's like, this is a pretty serious situation. And again, my heart goes out to the developers and the team and their families and friends and so on. And I just hope that they're all safe and sound, and whenever the game does come out, just again, let them take their time, let them polish it up. And again, Stalker 2 is a game that I was really looking forward to. It's a shame, but again, the situation is what it is. Sorry, Shockley. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. that Naraka blade point does look pretty cool. I did think it was funny that they took Phil's face and put him in the character creator. At first, I thought someone had done that as a meme, just on Twitter, as a trolling Xbox. I thought somebody did that, but no, it was actually them showing their character creator, so you can put your face on your own character.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, you see, I didn't really catch that part personally. So you are able to to put again.
It says custom faces, and it said such as Xbox boss Phil Spencer can be loaded into Naraka Blade Point. People are just going to be playing as Phil Spencer, I feel, where they're going to put.
Did they say how you're going to do this? Obviously, the boxes don't have cameras on them anymore. Do you have to get a webcam, or do you have to
you probably
take a photo on an app,
your website or something? There's probably so many ways. I know you used to be able to do it in Rainbow Six, Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
If you had one of the Xbox 360 cameras, it was terrible, but yeah,
it was. But it was a pretty cool concept at the time, right? So. But...
yeah, it's just the way it'd wrap your head around. You would just look like a hideous monster.
Mm-hmm.
Back then.
But I think I know what you're talking about too.
You look like a GoldenEye character.
Yes, actually, that's good.
yes.
But they need to bring that terrorist hunt back. That was fun. Terrorist hunt on Vegas. Super challenging. But yeah, going back to that, that looks pretty. The gameplay looked pretty cool. But yeah, it's still a cool feature. And because they got his face down, that's why I thought someone actually went in there and actually did a cool Photoshop meme or something. But I was yeah, we've come a long way. So that was just a cool, for character customization. More games should just do that. So, if people aren't getting represented as well, obviously putting some of the correct hair other than, just straight hair, because that's what you see in a lot of games, have, more hair options, obviously. But yeah, that might help with some of the facial structures, or just to get those down, because that might be hard to represent everybody. Other than just letting you go in there and just, because that takes forever too, where you have to hey, how wide does my bridge have to be of my nose, when you're trying to make someone look like you, whereas this way it's just so much easier, and that nailed it. So that was a cool feature.
All right. What'd you guys think about the Starfield talk? Is it getting you more pumped? Like anything, like actually anything Bethesda related there in the talk, whether it be Starfield, Redfall, um, like I mean, again, to
Yeah,
me,
I'm not gonna play it now. I can't seamlessly go out of orbit and have to wait for a cutscene. It's unbelievable that I have to do that. why,
Yeah, I
why
don't
can't it
care.
be like No Man's Sky where it takes 2 seconds to go out of orbit? Which is, I get it's not supposed to be a realistic game, but like that's like completely out of the realm of realistic.
Dude, if you want my opinion, I am so sick and tired of every game ripping off each other with these two pieces of clunky metal with bits of black powder that shoot a projectile. I mean, I am so over the copycatting.
Yeah,
I'm
like
making fun of guns. There's guns in every game.
I
And
know.
that's why I'm like, we're basically trying to nitpick at stuff. This game looks great.
Yeah, like these weird narratives that like there's no like takeoff animation into space. Like focus on what matters. I feel
It's an
like if I were to
RPG,
play this, if I were to
like
play
not
it,
a space sim.
yeah, it'd be fun the first 10 times, but like come on, like just take me to space. That's how I'll be eventually, right? I feel like yeah, they're cutting through the crap. You want yeah. There's the planet, there's space. Why have that like 5 second transition? Like it adds up. I feel like it does add up, and it will get tiresome sooner or later, especially with 1,000 planets. I don't want to see that animation every single time. Like these are the littlest, nitpickiest of narratives. Like I thought that was okay. Like that's hey good. Hey, more core gameplay for me in a what is could be very well be like 100+ hour game. So yeah, I say it adds up, and that's a good design choice.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's just going to take even longer to make. So if you'd love to wait for that much longer just for to have this, like, I guess, but like, I don't know.
I mean,
It's an RPG. People are like, hey, well, when you bring up that, hey, Mass Effect, KOTOR, like all these other old RPG games didn't do it. They're like, well, those are old. But I'm like, well, I guarantee you, the next Mass Effect and that next KOTOR remake aren't going to do it either. So, because they're going to be heavily RPGs. Well, hopefully the KOTOR remake is. I've heard that they're going to possibly. People are worried that they're going to streamline the dialogue. But hopefully that the whole RPG thing intact. That's what you're playing it for. So it hell at least lets you fly. Like, you know,
Exactly.
well,
at least
not
it lets
only
you do that.
not
You
only
couldn't do
does it
that in,
let
like
you
Mass
fly,
Effect, so.
I mean, you can edit your
Or the
own
old one.
ships, right, and customize them, and
Yeah, like they're letting you do a whole bunch of shit. Like, okay, they cut out that one piece, but you can fly the ship, just not like on the planet.
mm-hmm. And I think they said something about you can customize your crew too, like you can pick and choose, like from the encounters that you make. You know, like certain NPCs can be a part of your crew. Like I just found that really neat. Again, the ship building, the customization there. Yeah, the space battles too. Granted, we don't know how much space we'll have for those, but just no, just the thought of all that. It's like, that's a pretty big leap for Bethesda. So that's something.
Yeah.
And I just like, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be kind of cool to be able to do the seamless transition. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, that is a kind of a neat feature in No Man's Sky, and I do appreciate No Man's Sky for what it is. But also, No Man's Sky, it does get repetitive, like in some aspects. I mean, I haven't played it in a while, to be honest, but like some of the procedurally generated stuff, like it only had so many options, so everything, like sometimes things just kind of look samey after playing it for a little while. This doesn't look as bad that way. I mean, well, then again, we haven't seen a lot of the planets, but it just seems like we'll have like some more variety that way. There's more handcrafting going on. Well,
I get
again,
if people were like disappointed, like, oh, that'd be cool if they did have it in this game. But to the point where people were like, oh my God, like that were making it a huge sticking point. Like, I would just move on at that point. Like, okay, oh, it doesn't have it. That would be cool if it did. Obviously, it's doing all these other crazy things in this RPG where that you can customize with the ship. You can still fly in space, so that's cool. So like this one little tiny thing, people were like really sticking on, like, oh, look how trash this game is. You can't even do this. No Man's Sky can do it. This is garbage. This multi-billion-dollar company that's funding this game can't do it, but Hello Games can do it. I'm like, this is not even on the same level, but okay.
No. No, and I think a lot of people are forgetting the state of the game when it launched, right? That was kind of a nightmare.
Where
for
everybody was
Hello
asking
Games.
for their money back. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I remember that. It felt like a bait and switch at the time, and it felt like the developers they got away with it scot free. Like the game still sold like 1 million plus in the first month, and it felt like they got their money and ran. Luckily, they actually did turn the game around, but at launch, it was just a shit show.
Mhm.
I, I would like to say, at least if I can add on, I don't think the developer took the money and ran. He actually, I felt bad for him because he was actually kind of fed to the wolves by Sony. Sony used this game, hyped the hell out of it. I even got on the hype train, but something just fell off. I didn't buy the game when it first came out. And I actually didn't buy the game until it released on the Xbox. And then it was a totally different game, at least. But I kept up with the game when it first came out. I know it was like a barren, void wasteland. There was barely any content to the game. It was mostly just run around and mine stuff and build habitats. There was very little life, regrettably. But the developer kind of went into hiding and really hammered out a lot of great content to patch into the game. And that's why I thought it was interesting that Starfield is being compared to a game that the developer has had a lot of time to work on and also took an extreme large amount of player input to help steer him along the way to basically save this game and turn it into an experience now that's actually honestly a great experience. If you haven't tried No Man's Sky, I haven't put a whole lot of hours into it, but I've watched some guys on YouTube have done great crazy things and build awesome settlements and go all these places. I hear people talk about it and I know it's a solid game at this point. With Starfield, it's coming out the gates on this level, and I'm looking forward to just what we're going to be able to do. ACG talked about it, and you know exactly what we're going to see when it comes to the life that's going to be on these planets, how many of them are going to have life, which ones aren't going to have life. This game is going to be an absolute blast for us to explore. And like Pete Hines talked about, you know, I'm going to have a totally different experience than Invader, MLD, or Shockley. They're going to find some of the same things I might find, but there's going to be a different order that they find them in than I do. And the fact that we're going to be able to have discussions on the things we do and see, and the none of the stories are going to be exactly the same, is going to be absolute fun.
Yes, because that is the overall point. The people are harping on the space parts of it, but really, this is a true Bethesda RPG, choice-based, personalized story, factions. Like, this is what it's really all about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird seeing the backlash that Starfield is getting or Bethesda's getting, because normally a lot of people would be super stoked to just praise this game. Again, if it was a multi-platform game, I'm sure we would be hearing all kinds of praise, but because now it has an Xbox tag to it, it's like, oh no, we have to criticize the living crap out of it, unfortunately. And I don't want it to be that way. Just you see social media, and it's like, hey, I don't mind criticism. I'm not saying that Starfield is a perfect game looking from what I'm seeing. Honestly, like, I can have my own criticisms, but overall it's looking like a really fun game. And again, like, just the customization options alone and the space battles, and I don't know, it just looks like a really cool game that I want to try out regardless. Again, I'm not the biggest RPG guy out there. But again, it looks like a world that I would sink hours into, especially with venturing off into the 1,000-odd planets you're able to go to. Are all of them going to be handcrafted? No. Are you going to be going to every little part of the planets? No, from the sounds of it. But that's still a lot of content there. That's still a lot. So either way, like I'm stoked. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. What's interesting is that they did say that this is the most handcrafted game that they've ever made. And usually what Bethesda does, and this goes back as far as Oblivion, I think, or even earlier with Morrowind, I'm not sure, but they do basically the procedural generation, and then they kind of handcraft it and smooth it out, essentially. So, but I feel like at the very least, you're gonna have the Goldilocks planets, like the kind of like the planet, like the Earth kind of planets relative to the Sun. Those will be the most interesting to explore. The rest will probably be like barren ice balls that you just mine for resources, probably. But at the very least, if you look at maybe like the Goldilocks planets, you're gonna have a good time exploring. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like a fun ride. Guys in the chat, please let us know what your thoughts are on Starfield or just the extended showcase overall. Again, I thought that there were some really nice little announcements there. Maybe not the largest, but still some nice stuff added in, like Valheim and so on. Guys, did anything else catch your eye? Like, I know that one Xbox exclusive that's coming out in a month's time, As Dusk Falls. There was a developer talk. Anybody interested in that narrative-driven game?
I'll play it. I mean, if the story's good, I'll keep going. If it's not, I'll uninstall it. That's the magic of Game Pass. It's just the low barrier. So
Yeah.
I'll check it out. I'm intrigued by it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta admit, I'm kind of curious, to be honest, especially when they were talking about all the different branching paths for the storyline. So again, I'm kind of curious personally on that. I'm not saying that it's on my the top of my radar, but still, I might give it a shot. Also, the Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels DLC, they did a bit of a deep dive. Again, I love Forza. I love Forza Horizon 5, but the Hot Wheels I think goes very well with Forza. I don't know if any of you guys played Forza Horizon 3 with the Hot Wheels DLC. That was that was a really good time. I know a lot of people still to this day just have a really fun time with that DLC. Let's see, what else do we got here? Any Slime Rancher fans out there? Yes, no? There was a trailer for that. Game Pass Day 1. That's coming out in the fall. And yeah, I mean, overall, guys, it was a huge win for Game Pass. Lots of Day 1 stuff. And, we got a couple of nice little announcements. Just to add on, I think it was Centurion that was talking about it with the Rick and Morty developer. That game, High on Life, looks really cool. And I think it was mentioned in the chat that High on Life was actually a Stadia exclusive title. And then Stadia had to drop that. It was that and The Quarry, if I'm not mistaken, too. The Quarry just came out. So I gotta admit, High on Life is certainly on my radar.
Well,
I think that comes out in September, if I'm not mistaken.
October.
Oh, October. All right.
Okay.
But it's good to see developers like that are getting, at least surviving the Stadia thing. I'm still kind of, excuse me for saying it, I'm kind of pissy about Typhoon Studios. They made Journey to the Savage Planet. They got bought out by Google when they launched Stadia, and we all saw what happened to Stadia, and Typhoon Studios disappeared.
Yeah, that was a bummer because I really liked that title when it came to Game
Oh, yeah,
Pass.
it was great.
I thought that had a lot of personality to it, and I'll be honest, I didn't think that Stadia was going to buy them. I actually thought that Xbox was going to be in talks to acquire them. It just seemed like the type of studio they'd be interested in. But no, it's a sad shame, really. They didn't even, I think they were acquired for like a year and then they dropped them. Well, actually, they dropped all their the games they were developing. Oh man, I guess again that Bethesda deal that ZeniMax deal must have really scared them. Oh man, what a time! What a time! Anybody have any other thoughts on the extended showcase? All right, I'll take that as a no. But yeah, guys, either way, I thought that the extended showcase was pretty interesting. Maybe not some of the biggest reveals, but I do think that they had some nice commentary spread out there, some nice additional things, and I'm glad they kept a lot of this out of the main show. Um, but yeah, why don't we move over to some other bits of news? And Capcom and Square Enix's Final Fantasy, they recently had their own separate shows and streams. Capcom had a look at Street Fighter 6, Exoprimal, Resident Evil, and more. There is certainly a few things there. And Final Fantasy had an anniversary stream for Final Fantasy 7 and showed off some pretty neat content. I'll just leave it like that. Eric Shockley, bud, I know you had your eyes set on a lot of the stuff here. Why don't we start off with Capcom, like their showcase? Did anything catch your attention at the Capcom show?
Yeah, with the Capcom show, yeah, I think that's where we learned the third-person mode for Resident Evil 8, which I feel would just make that game even easier. Or not the like, because the other game was even a challenge. I feel like even on normal and definitely on like hard, especially at the beginning. But I feel like I feel like that would make you feel like safer. Whereas like there's a certain really creepy part in that game where you don't know how close this one enemy is to you, in a dark house. So like having the third person mode, you then kind of see like how close things are to you. Because imagine playing Resident Evil 2 remake through like first person, because which you can do on PC with the first person mod, and it makes it way more intense. Because you don't know how close those bites are to your neck when you're like trying to like juke certain zombies. But that would still be a cool mode. Gives people option, because I know a lot of people hate first person mode in a lot of these games, so that is a cool option. If anything, they should just give us first person like going forward, first person, third person options, since they're already doing it, or modders are doing it for them. But yeah, that was cool to see. And the DLC that's coming with the mercenaries mode, where you can play as Chris, Lady, I can never say that name, and then the other guy, totally forget his name now, Heisenberg, I think. So that was kind of cool. Trying to think. Oh yeah, and then they did release the PS5, Xbox, like the upgrade. So free upgrade for anyone that already owns the copy. Been playing with that. So at least on my OLED, I haven't noticed any dips when I was doing the ray tracing mode. And I think you have a high frame rate mode, and then I think there's one other mode where it's basically where you turn off where you don't have ray tracing on, or high frame rate mode on. So it's kind of, I think it's a locked 4K 60 mode in that sense. So I think you got like 3 different modes to choose from. So, but yeah, at least with the VR on, I didn't notice really any dips using the ray tracing. So, just trying to think of anything. I never played like the previous Dragon's Dogma. I know a lot of people seemed to be hype about that announcement.
Well, that was interesting too. Not to cut you off, but it's like they had announced that they were doing some kind of special Dragon's Dogma stream a couple of days later, and then they did it, and they were like, "Oh, guess what, guys? Dragon's Dogma 2, we have it in development." And a lot of people were pretty happy about that. It was kind of low key, but at the same time, a lot of people got pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, and I don't know if they gave us any more. I think there was maybe a little bit more of a glimpse of Resident Evil 4 remake. So I'm hoping I'm kind of sad that they totally skipped. It seems that they totally skipped Resident Evil Code Veronica. Because if they just jump to 4, then they could be thinking, hey, we're just going to go from 3 to 4, and then maybe we'll circle around back to Code Veronica. But otherwise, logically, it would have made more sense to just go straight to Code Veronica, especially. But since they're going this way, and hopefully they're making it more of a grounded, darker game, because there is parts in that towards the end of Resident Evil 4 that, especially the Wesker fight, because if you go back and watch somebody play that fight, it seems completely out of place for how like the beginning of Resident Evil 4 starts, where it's more like not serious because he can do suplexes and shit, but at least that seems more like is this Leon in Resident Evil 5? That's what it feels like because it's what basically Wesker, the same Wesker, where he's like Superman. So I don't know if they're gonna want to do that in this remake. So hopefully they do take liberties and do a reimagining of how that fight's gonna go. But yeah, that's hopefully that since they're using looks like the same voice actor and same character model, hopefully they're like, cool, let's reuse, take advantage of the voice actor and the character model we already have for Claire and come back to Code Veronica, because they could really make that game shine. Because it was like a really cool, interesting game, but unfortunately there are some aspects of it that are well, shit, it can use the remake, but there is especially that if you've played the first 2 seconds of the game, which isn't really you playing it, it's more of a cutscene, but it's when you watch it, it's basically like you're in Umbrella Lab with Claire, because she played Resident Evil 2 remake. She goes to where her brother Chris is, who went to Europe, where one of Umbrella's headquarters is, and she's like breaking. It's almost kind of, they can make it kind of like if you played Metal Gear Solid 2, where it's like, basically you're playing as, Snake breaking into that, ship, and like they can make it a cool espionage, like breaking into Umbrella while that all happens, and then you get taken to this island where the rest of the game occurs. So you actually get to play that part you never got to play in the first game. They could really, something we've never seen with Umbrella that could really sell and get people really hyped, because you never get to actually play that portion of Code Veronica. It's just a cool, awesome cutscene back from the early 2000s. So
well, I just hope that going forward they don't cut any more content out of the Resident Evil game remakes or remasters or whatever, because I remember playing Resident Evil 3 and yeah, there were some things cut out there. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm the largest Resident Evil fan out there, but nobody likes.
Was it substantial portions? I couldn't remember.
There were some sections. Yeah, there were some noticeable sections. Again, I wouldn't call myself the biggest Resident Evil fan out there, but a lot of other people felt, were turned off by again some of the lack of. There were some sections that were unfortunately left out, whether that be because of dev time or whatnot. It just, it wasn't.
They did pump that game out a year after.
Well, yeah, because they got a lot of praise. They got a ton of praise for Resident Evil 2 remake, and then that came out quickly, and
it seems they've taken their time with this one, so.
As they should, and I enjoyed the Resident Evil 3 game. I'll totally admit it was cool. It's just there was sections of the game where I'm like, oh, well, this kind of doesn't feel like in the place that it should be. So it was kind of noticeable that way. And then when I went to go look at the commentary, like, oh, why are these guys all pissed off? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this does seem like there was content missing and so on. So yeah, I understand why people were upset by that, especially the more hardcore Resident Evil fans. But still a fun game overall, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, shockingly, you were saying, I mean, there's updates going to those games, like, what was it, 2, 3, and 7. They're adding 4K, higher frame rates, and I think 3D audio, for like updates for Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation, and so on, all for free. I mean, that's a nice touch, right? I mean, that's the way to do it. Nobody wants to pay for these kinds of upgrades, right? Activision.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, I think, if apparently, and it's the same as like the Final Fantasy VII. Hey, if you got it free through PS Plus, you don't get the free upgrade. This is the same. Sorry, my dog. But this is the same deal where you don't get the free upgrade if you just got Resident Evil 7 through PS Plus. So gotta buy it. But that thing's probably dirt cheap when you find it on sale. So
All right, good to know. Anything else catch your eye from Capcom, or like I know that there was some Monster Hunter stuff, and I don't know if Street Fighter caught your eye at all too. I think they had some more gameplay for that. I mean, overall, it
Oh
seemed
yeah, I
like a
forgot.
decent show, but
Yeah, I forgot because from their first showing, they like said, "Hey, here's kind of that brief showing," and I think they moved on, and then they came back around to their actual show. But yeah, that seemed cool with the character creator, so that'll be interesting to see how that works out. But I do like kind of the look that they're going for, so it gives the characters all kind of distinct, realistic look. So that seemed pretty cool.
all right, all right. Centurion Pal, I don't know if you happen to catch any of the Capcom showcase, but if you did though, like, was there anything that caught your attention that you're like kind of excited for? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm gonna be absolutely honest. I've been catching all the highlights from folks like Shockley and other people on YouTube that kind of filled me in. Um, I keep buying Capcom games and adding them to my backlog. I just never get around to playing them. I just finished Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, so I almost like in my head are thinking, man, I guess it's a good thing that I waited so long to play these games because now I get to play them at 4K with some of the updates. So this is going to be great. Well, that's pretty much my takeaway from this whole thing, that I guess at least I waited this long, regretfully.
Hey, you're not the only one. I had started it like a year or two ago, but I just haven't I haven't gone back to it because, again, as I mentioned a lot in these shows, I do have quite the backlog, right? And
Right,
unfortunately,
and
that's one of them.
I got that far in Resident Evil 7, I guess. I mean, I guess I got 3/4 of the way of the game and I stopped playing it for whatever reason, and I went back and played it just like a month or two ago, and I beat it, and I was like, "Wow, I didn't know it was that close. Oops."
It happens. I think everybody in the chat would agree with us that it just you have a backlog, right? That's just what happens. So, but no. Otherwise, though, I mean, besides the Resident Evil titles, anything else catch your eyes, or just like, I'm more interested in other shows overall.
God, I'm not gonna say, if I actually had to sit down and pick from a list of show like the stuff, I will say Capcom was one of the ones that caught my eye. I feel like that's why I'm taking in, because I work so much and a lot of these shows come on while I'm at work. And to be honest, my job can be very quiet. And so I love listening to podcasts. And yeah, at the point when you're listening to podcasts at work while these shows are taking place, you're pretty much getting the lowdown without having to watch the show. And I would have to say Capcom was one of the ones I was interested in.
All right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff we already kind of knew about, but they did have some nice announcements. So, I got to give them credit for that.
Well, I'm talking, it's nice to see that they're updating the games. We knew about like a lot of their stuff coming because of the PlayStation State of Play, but to hear a lot about the updates and the things that we're getting for games that we've already purchased, and that Capcom is taking a stance as yet another developer that believes that upgrades shouldn't cost you.
Agreed. Yeah. No, it's the way to go, and they did the right thing there. Yeah. No. Again, there were some good things showing up there. I'm not saying it was my most anticipated show, but no, I think they did a lot of good there. General MLD buddy, I don't know if you had any like excitement for this show, if you were interested in any of these games here. But please tell us, if you happen to catch this showcase, like, did you like anything that they showed off, any announcements, any of the gameplay? Please let us know your thoughts.
In terms of the Capcom showcase, I think everyone else on the panel pretty much said it all there. I do think it's nice that the Resident Evil games are getting the free upgrades. I already played the mainline games myself, so it doesn't affect me personally. I got too big of a backlog to replay them again. I don't know. That's just me. I think Resident Evil 4, however, was the highlight. I'm looking forward to that the most. That's definitely a day one buy for me. I played so much of that on the GameCube and later on when it came to Xbox. Like that game, I know like it was said in like before how it kind of makes more sense to do Code Veronica, but Resident Evil 4, that game just printed so much money. Like, you gotta do that one first, and then circle back to Code Veronica, I think, and give that game the love it deserves afterwards, I think. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Resident Evil 4. I hope it changes some things, so it's not like a one-to-one. Obviously, I think obviously they're gonna make it a little more horror oriented, which is good. Because the original game, I don't know. I mean, I never was short on ammo playing the Resident Evil 4 because I was always very stingy with it. If they can make it like Resident Evil 2, I'm down. So I'm glad Capcom's doing that. Otherwise, the other games just didn't quite catch my attention, like that one with the dinosaurs and the whatever. That seems okay, but not my cup of tea. But otherwise, yeah, everyone already talked about Capcom on the show there.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you mentioned that one too, because it would seem like something up my alley. It seems like Anthem meets Turok in a lot of ways, just judging by the gameplay. Funny enough, I have Anthem gameplay on as I'm talking, but because you look at the way that the suits are designed and the classes, and they look like the spitting image of from Anthem to me. So I just wonder. I'm kind of wondering to myself if there's any inspiration there. The gameplay looks fun. It looks crazy. Oh, oh man. But yeah, overall, I mean, I thought that the Capcom showcase was okay. I mean, we again, a lot of stuff we already knew about, but still some nice announcements there, and I'm glad they're doing the free stuff. The free upgrades are always welcome today. But Shockley, buddy, I'll go over to you again, because that wasn't the only thing that happened this week. We also had a Final Fantasy VII anniversary stream. What is it, the 25th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken. They had a couple of interesting announcements there. What'd you think about what they showed off? I think because they had, a couple of Final Fantasy VII related games and content, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the know about the stream too much until Mr. McQuack that I follow on Twitter and Sixers Octavian, I forget his exact handle, but some of the people I follow there on Twitter that are big into JRPGs or those types of games coming to Xbox, we're kind of hyping it up. Plus, we heard from the snitch that Crisis Core would be coming to Switch, Xbox, PlayStation. So we're like, okay, maybe this is the time since it's the anniversary. And they're probably going to announce some other news or platforms about Final Fantasy VII Remake, which they did start off at first. So you were like, oh, okay, shit. They're going to, especially when they showed off Final Fantasy VII again, you thought, okay, well, what are they going to announce here? Obviously, the game's already on PlayStation, PS4, PS5, or Integrate is on PS5. And then when you see them release that date of like, hey, it's coming to PC again for Steam, and then no Xbox, then I was just like, okay, obviously then the snitch is probably wrong about the Crisis Core, because why would they not bring it to Xbox? The deal's over. Like, I don't think there's some secret deal. Like, we knew about the first deal, and they disclosed that and printed it on every box, so we knew. And I think they even... I think it briefly got delayed, and so they delayed the extension, so they let us know about that. But there's supposed to be some secret extension, or secret deal, exclusivity deal that they aren't disclosing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's just Square being Square, because there's other games that have skipped Xbox, or there's other games that have skipped other platforms. So I think it's just being them just like, hey, deciding we just don't care. Because then I don't understand, why would you bring Crisis Core when they announced that part? I was like, at first I was like happy. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's awesome, it's coming to Xbox. But then I was just thinking about it. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, because I get why people are upset about it, because it kind of seems like, well, you're giving us no indication that we're ever getting the rest of the story. I get Crisis Core is a prequel to Final Fantasy VII that's on Xbox right now. But you're giving us you're almost making it very clear that, hey, it ain't coming. Don't count on it anytime soon, at least. But hey, buy this game, buy Crisis Core. Um, enjoy that. The only thing I don't like that they're even bringing it to Xbox is because I get it's awesome that it is coming, but the only downside to it is you can see clearly people are just feeling it as like a slap in the face. Or, guess what? You're telling those people that they have to get a PS5. Might as well get a PS5 because we ain't giving you, if you're a hardcore fan, you're going to get a PS5 anyway to play the second game day one. And even if you were holding out for this one, well, now it's giving you the indication that just get a PS5 and play through the first one and enjoy the second one. Hell, you might as well just buy a Crisis Core on PS5 and just have them all together, and then don't buy it on the Xbox. But then that kind of swings back to Square's going to see that, hey, people either went out and bought a PlayStation, just bought Crisis Core on that platform, even though they might be Xbox mainly play on Xbox. Or they're going to see people just being pissed off of like, screw it, I'm not going to buy this game. I was going to check out, this Final Fantasy VII game when it eventually came to Xbox because, hey, they gave us a date. Obviously, didn't promise that it was coming to other consoles, but they did give people a date where and they led people on. They never like came out and said, hey, I know a lot of you, we see, because they see what's on Twitter when people are like, because you even see with Kojima coming out and them saying, hey, we still like PlayStation, we still have deals with PlayStation, don't get that twisted. We saw us on Xbox's stage. So they read these, what people are saying on Twitter, and that's all over it. Like people have been talking like, hey, it's eventually coming, because the deal's this date. So they've clearly led people on, or at least didn't let people know, hey, that's not what's going to happen. But that's the only issue I see it is Square's going to use this as a barometer to like, oh, well, you guys don't like these smaller types of games. Well, screw it. We're not going to bring Stranger of Paradise or like other games like that aren't big mainline games. Or heck, maybe we'll just, I guess this is a Final Fantasy game, right? So maybe we'll just skip Final Fantasy 16 coming after whatever deal that's. Maybe that deal never, who knows? Just using it as another game of like, wow, the sales of this game were abysmal on Xbox. Well, gee, I wonder why. Why wouldn't you just, especially because there's not a huge, people think that there's not like a giant JRPG fan base on Xbox. And I'm sure there's not, compared to the other platforms, sure. But you're not helping the situation by what you should be doing. If you're wasting resources to port this over to Xbox, then hype up, hey, guess what? You guys aren't getting it on your platform tomorrow like Steam, but hey, guess what? We're releasing it, spring 2023. You're eventually going to get it. Then people are like, okay, let me check out this Crisis Core that's coming out sooner. I'll play that in between, hype up, so then people actually on that platform buy your game, and then lead that into, because that's a prequel anyway, lead that into playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Then they'll understand certain things at the end of that game that kind of allude back to Crisis Core. So it'd be a perfect setup. So I don't understand, are they just trying to waste resources and not sell games? Like, I just don't understand their thinking. You're supposed to grow Final Fantasy, not limit. It's a giant freaking IP in gaming. Look what Persona is doing. That was definitely a much smaller niche. And back on the PS2, there's definitely people that played those games. But Persona, I saw it sometimes in magazines. I didn't hear anybody ever, like in high school, ever talking about Persona. Like, you'd had to be people that were like hardcore into, more of like that anime or JRPG grouping. I'd see like the pictures. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. I would never hear anybody talking about it, but like it's gotten very big, and those games are awesome. It's gotten to the side. It's getting closer to streamline with the Final Fantasy, or not Final Fantasy, but Persona 5 Royal. So, and they're growing that base out to now all platforms. It's getting that, like, you're supposed to be growing this IP. And people also forget they're like, hey, well, this game's not going to sell. I heard Jay Barry saying if it went to Xbox, it wouldn't sell anyway. So they're not really missing out on too many sales. No, that's you not understanding how big Final Fantasy VII is. Guess what? Most gamers probably don't know any characters other than maybe Titus from, or, from the Final Fantasy 10, and barely any of them know any of those characters. Everybody in gaming, whether you play Final Fantasy games or not, knows Sephiroth and probably knows Cloud. They are transcendent characters like that. Final Fantasy VII is transcendent in gaming. Like, those two characters are well known, even if you don't play those games, because just the coolness factor of them, the story. That was like a big jump when Final Fantasy VII came out, where it brought in more people. Were like, oh, this looks way different than the other Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy games. Let me check this out. This seems way cooler than those. Like, this game has a way bigger mass appeal than a lot of those other games. I even saw some people saying that we're kind of downplaying or saying all this stuff of like Xbox players not being into this. And then I see them tweet the same thing saying, yeah, I never played any of these games before, but this one seems pretty cool. I'm going to check it out. I'm like, you literally just said Xbox players wouldn't check this game out. You yourself said you never played any other Final Fantasy VII game, but you're going to check this one out. See how that works? Like, I just don't understand what Square is doing, but yeah, sure. Whatever, it's their business.
Yeah.
Run it how you want, I guess.
Well, again, they've always had a close relationship with Sony, going back to the PlayStation 1 days. And again, like, what do you want me to say? I mean, it is a pretty aggressive move by Sony to get that exclusivity. I was kind of curious because I know a couple of days before any of the showcases were starting, some people had noticed that, I think it was on, I'm not sure if it was the PlayStation website or something, but there was like it was something like only on PlayStation or whatever. It was taken off the website. I mean, sorry guys, I may be remembering something different, but I remember there was some talk like, oh, maybe Xbox got them to put it on Game Pass, or it's coming to the Xbox systems, but no, that never happened. And seeing this new chapter added to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they got the exclusivity, the Xbox version isn't coming anytime soon, especially when they don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it at all.
Either Sony did do some backdoor exclusive deal that they're not disclosing, and they're massively overpaying for this deal to just continuously lock it for the foreseeable future, or Square is giving them a huge discount and doing them a solid and losing money in the process. One of those is true.
Yeah. Now, MLD, I don't know if you're a fan of Final Fantasy or if you grew up with Final Fantasy VII. I know I'm one of the few who just, I never played Final Fantasy VII. I know it's heresy, guys. But I know some of the characters, believe me, like Tifa, Sephiroth, and all that. I know some things, don't get me wrong. Because a good friend of mine was obsessed with that title and still is. But yeah, MLD, do you have any thoughts on the Final Fantasy 25th anniversary stream? Anything catch your eye and so on?
Well, I can only say my piece as like an Xbox fan. That's just, it's another high-profile snub, and yeah, that's basically my take on this right now. Sony's been locking away Final Fantasy since the PS1 days. In my opinion, nothing has changed. I think it's part of a systematic goal on Sony's part to create the perception that if you want to play the AAA JRPGs, you got to get a PlayStation. It was true back in the PS1 days. It's true now. So I think Square's comfortable with that. They think that the game's going to sell more than enough on its own, just be on PlayStation. And if that's what they want to do, then hey, more power to them. But I definitely think that it's a bit weird that we thought that the exclusive deal was only for 1 year and it's up, and yet still no word on an Xbox version. It's pretty weird. So I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, I think Sony wants to keep that perception going, like keep the JRPGs on their side of the court. You know, it's that perception. Like when people think of Xbox on social media discourse, well, when people bring up JRPGs, there's a stigma. Like why would you play a JRPG on Xbox? You come across those opinions a lot, I find, and a large part of that is due to literally gaming generations of Sony locking away these high profile games. And this is just the latest example. So it's good that Xbox is doing things to the more niche things like Persona. And I think we thought Street Fighter 6 was exclusive, but now it's coming to Xbox. That's good. So Xbox is clearly making some inroads with the Japanese market. I think Xbox One, set them back a lot, but I think they're finally gaining back a lot of that goodwill nowadays. But they still got a ways to go. Sony is a deep relationship with a lot of these developers, especially again with the high profile games. And I think it's going to be a while before that changes. But like, come on, like put a ring on it already. I mean, it's a third party developer. Either buy them or it should come to Xbox eventually, right? So I mean, I'm probably not going to play it myself, but I'm just thinking about all the Xbox fans out there that were waiting for this game to come to Xbox, and now are scratching their heads thinking, well, how long do I have to wait now? And so it's the principle of the matter. I think that it's good that the game is they announced a new game, good for the fans of the game. I just feel like Square should honor their word. If the exclusivity contract was for so long, honor that. Announce it for Xbox. And if something's going on like back deal kind of thing, a little transparency wouldn't hurt about it. If it's been extended, just say so. So I don't know. That's my take on the matter.
Mm-hmm. I do think you have a point though, because a lot of people have been saying that about. Obviously, it wasn't too long ago that who was it, Embracer Group, that bought all of Square Enix's Western studios, and now a lot of people are thinking, Sony is gonna come in and swoop up and buy Square Enix. Well, what are they waiting for? I mean, they already do a lot of exclusive deals with them. They may as well make it official right at this point. And they can't be that much to buy, what, like 7 or 8 billion, I think it was quoted at. So they may as well just put a ring on it, like you said, MLD. I mean, it's no secret.
I mean, if it's first party, then in my opinion, there's nothing. Hey, that changes everything. Like when Bethesda won first party, you can no longer think of Bethesda as a third party entity. They are now first party. That changes everything going forward with all their new games. Same goes for Square Enix. If they were bought by Sony officially, I would have no problems with it going forward, because in the end of the day, first party is first party. They are owned by by one of the big three. So that changes the rules. So, but the fact that they are still third party, it just seems a little sleazy to me. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it is interesting. Like, again, they all do like their own deals, right? I mean, Xbox right now is really aggressive with Game Pass deals, especially day one launching into the service and so on, and getting some timed exclusivity on these games. But Sony does grab a lot of these, I guess, somewhat larger titles. I mean, obviously the Final Fantasy VII remake, that is a pretty big one, but they did Deathloop, Ghostwire Tokyo, which again will be coming to Xbox platforms soon enough. But they even tried it with Starfield. Apparently, there was rumors of them trying for a Starfield timed exclusivity. So again, why wait? Just do it now. They may as well just buy them outright. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, it just seems like a no-brainer, and to everybody in the chat apparently, but that's just me. Let's see, Centurion Pal. I mean, I'm not sure how if you have any love for the Final Fantasy franchises, but again, we have this Final Fantasy VII anniversary stream here. MLD and Shockley gave a take. What do you think of the one announcement for Xbox, and also the fact that we still got nothing for the Final Fantasy VII remake for Xbox platforms?
Ah, man, I had some fun with this on Twitter. Someone chatted with someone about it. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that, my cat. Anyways, so this whole situation kind of has me laughing. I enjoy a good Final Fantasy game, but I'm going to be brutally blunt. I own a PlayStation 4. I own the PS4 Final Fantasy 7 remake, and it's still in its plastic wrap. I'll get to it eventually. I play Final Fantasy games. I think Shock, is Final Fantasy 15 the one where they drive around in the car?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Okay. I played that one and beat it. That was the last Final Fantasy game I played. I have like a couple Final Fantasy games, including Final Fantasy 7 Remake in my backlog. In Invader, you are not alone. Never played the original Final Fantasy 7. The remake is going to be interesting for me, but from talking to Shockley, it's a completely different experience, so I still have to play the original game anyways. So this whole situation has me laughing. Whatever, we all know that Final Fantasy and Sony have gone together for such a long time, like peanut butter and jelly. You know, they're two completely different things, but they have just been put together as a combo for such a long time. I still thought it was strange anytime I would see Final Fantasy on a different platform back in the day other than PlayStation. Do I feel snubbed as an Xbox player? Maybe. This game has been out for X amount of years. It seems really interesting that if PlayStation is creating a deal or throwing money at this, that we're basically throwing money at a game this old at this point, if that is true. Or like everybody talked about, Square Enix might be lining themselves up to be acquired. What are they waiting for? Well, PlayStation is PlayStation's under the microscope of the FTC as well when it comes to making purchases. That little Bungie acquisition, tripped their radar as well. That's why everybody's like, oh my God, they're looking at Microsoft. They check out everybody over a certain amount of money. And guess what? The money that PlayStation threw at Bungie still was not a small amount of money. And the FTC, again, said, hey, we have questions, just like they did with Microsoft. And generally, when you get in those situations, you kind of cool your jets. You don't go around doing stuff like making more acquisitions left and right. Like we just saw recently the Showcase Invader. Who was it where they had like League of Legends and all that? What was the company? You know the company I'm talking about, where they're putting a lot of their games in Game Pass now.
Well, Riot.
Riot Games.
Right. Yes.
Riot Games.
Yeah.
Right. But we're not seeing an acquisition. We're seeing a partnership. I thought that was really interesting that Microsoft has not gone around this year talking acquisition because they don't want to ring any more alarm bells for the FTC. I did go out on Twitter, had a little bit of fun and poked at the Final Fantasy 7 remake situation, saying that it's interesting that, this whole situation shows that Sony is able to compete with Microsoft. And regardless of Microsoft's pockets, regardless of the spread of Microsoft's umbrella when it comes to how many studios they could own with Activision, it's still shown that Sony can compete on a very big level. They have titles that are almost synonymous with their brand. And I put in my tweet, the Hellraiser dude, be careful what you wish for, because everybody who is complaining, saying that Microsoft is consolidating and creating a situation that is completely anti-competitive, even though we can see that PlayStation is completely being competitive and is able to get people to flock to their console, and it is still making it a major driving force as the main seller of their consoles. And that's why I just kind of chuckled at the whole situation, that honestly, in my opinion, by Final Fantasy remaining on the PlayStation platform, it is nothing more than another argument that the Microsoft law team can make in that room with the FTC when the concept of anti-competitive comes up.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. No. Very good points. Again, it's interesting with Final Fantasy. A lot of people feel burned by this deal, and there's a lot of things that aren't talked about, unfortunately. It's like there is a deal, but there isn't, kind of a thing. They can't really talk about things, and it just kind of sucks for Xbox fans overall. Again, it's funny because Xbox fans don't bug the Final Fantasy developers and publisher Square Enix. But when Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider was exclusive, remember, for the Xbox One? And then there was so many people that were jumping on Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics that they had to put out a statement like soon after that, oh, blah, blah, blah. Like, they were covering themselves, and it just...
Still the only apology letter that's ever been issued for any exclusive game.
Well, does the Kojima thing count as well?
Yeah, right.
I think it kind of does.
Well, yeah, that was funny too, right? Because literally people were coming after him. Like, there was a lot of like weird stuff.
Basically, the same thing. It's like, oh, sorry, we're making a game for Xbox. We still love PlayStation, though. So...
I signed the petition. I want to help Kojima come back to the light.
Yeah.
Well, no, it was weird because it was just like he didn't even announce a game technically. He was just like, oh, we're early on making a game for, we're basically, yes, I am making a game for Xbox, and we are in a deal for, whatever. They didn't even show off gameplay or what it was about or what the concept was. Just, oh, hey, we're making a game with Xbox, and it's going to be something entirely new and so on, and probably experimental. And then a lot of people just get super upset that he's making an exclusive game with them. I mean, he didn't even show anything. He just appeared on their stream, and it's like, what, you can't, if you're a Kojima fan, you can't be happy for the guy that he's making a brand new game? Like, do they have to come out and be like, oh yes, we're still working with PlayStation on games? It's like, well, duh, they didn't buy the studio. It's weird.
Can I throw it out there that I think it's interesting that only in gaming will you be like, no, he only makes content for this brand. But meanwhile, when we go to, could you imagine JJ or George Lucas back in the day? No. I only work with Fox. Like, it's like, could you imagine being like a Hollywood movie producer or director and only be like, no, I only work with one brand? Like, I'm just kind of cracking up at this whole situation that, forgive a man for wanting to expand his reach and the breadth of his brand and make more money.
It's almost like they feel like they're cheated on, like it's some kind of like relationship they're in, I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I'll agree. It is pretty weird. I mean, I'll never understand that mentality. I mean, I don't know. I understand having a fondness for, certain, aspects of games and whatnot, but like, I don't know, some people are way, way too close when it comes to these things and obsessive. But that's neither here or there. But in any case, guys, I thought that there were some nice announcements from, Final Fantasy 25th anniversary. At least we are getting some Final Fantasy VII spin-off coming to the Xbox platforms this fall from the looks of it. And again, the Capcom showcase wasn't too bad either. Had some interesting stuff as well. Some good Resident Evil upgrades and so on. Guys in the chat, again, if you like this show, then hey, please hit that like button and share it out. Okay, moving on to the last topic for tonight. And you know what, guys? We need to discuss Diablo Immortal, the high-profile mobile game released, I think it was early June 2nd, so about 2 weeks ago. And, it's come out and it's been met with a lot of backlash, lots of negative reactions to the microtransactions, to say the least. But I've been told that it's actually pretty fun, like really fun, in fact, which is a shame. Centurion, but I'll lead off with you on this last topic because, well, what can I say? I know how much you just adore microtransactions, right? So what's your take on all this backlash in this situation?
How much I adore microtransactions. Oh my gosh. I feel like, okay, so yes, I participate in the dark craft of microtransactions. Now, when I say that, because I play ESO, but that's really interesting that that Microsoft is going to potentially end up owning Blizzard because of the situation. Let's start with you know, the fact that Diablo Immortal now has the lowest user score in Metacritic history at 0.2. Doesn't even have a number. It is at 0.2. And that is based on over 1,943 reviews. At least that's according to VGC here right now. And that's where this game, it got pretty bad. I mean, when the game first came out and you found out that you had to basically grind for a specific thing, where did it go? Oh, that one disappeared. Darn it. I had it set up here. It's on my phone. There's this weird rune thing that has a very, very low drop rate. This thing actually has a 1 in 2,000 chance. Everybody's been wondering exactly how bad it is to get a 5-star legendary gem, an actual true 5-star legendary gem. This is on Game Rant, and it was published yesterday. Diablo Immortal Twitch streamer spends $25K to get first 5-star legendary gem and then deletes his character. It was the fact that he had to spend that much money to get into that gem just to get the drop. I guess the drop rates are really low on some of this stuff. Diablo Immortal has some of the most egregious microtransactions that I've ever heard of. I do not play this game. I don't think I will ever play this game because I will be truthful. I've been tuning into like Armsman Gald. Is that how you pronounce his name? Big Twitch streamer.
Oh, are you talking
Arms Gald?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Long hair, goatee. And so he actually showed how egregious some of these things are. He ran a character through a dungeon an unpaid for character, basically a free to play character with no money invested. He ran it through the dungeon, got to the end of the dungeon, and we had this mediocre, very lackluster display of not getting loot. He was even confused because he said stuff is missing. And then he went and ran the dungeon again with a different character that had a paid for season pass and paid for upgrades. And when he defeated the end boss again, now all of a sudden the slot machine kicked out and it was like a fountain of collectibles and drops and all this other stuff. The experience was completely changed because he invested money into it. And yes, there is people trying to say that the game is not that bad. You can still grind for stuff. But you've heard people say that some of the stuff, it takes like 150 years to grind for some of these objects.
Ooh, wow.
Oh, and that's where, I mean, Diablo Immortal, I don't know what made them, according to some of the guys I watch that play Diablo games, like, oh no, it's Alex. He came out and said that this is pretty much a bar that they're wanting to set, and now they're wanting to see how much further they can probably push this bar. How far can we go to get people to really not want to spend money on this product? Because, you know, you sent me that article, Invader. It's already earned more than $24 million. People are really punching a lot of money into this proverbial slot machine. I mean, this game was outlawed in at least 2 countries due to the fact that it met the perfect criteria for gambling.
Mm-hmm. And I think I saw something recently where somebody spent an obscene amount of money. I want to say don't poke fun at me, guys, if I get it wrong, but it was something like $15,000. I don't know if it was in Australian, American, and so on, but he didn't even get like like a rare, like one of those higher rarity items and whatnot. And it's like, well, what the hell is up?
You're
with
hearing multiple stories about that. Like, there's actually multiple stories I've heard. Yours, I would probably 15,000. That'd be like the highest number I've heard. At least one of the numbers that was thrown out at me was the guy went on and streamed and spent 5,000-6,000 and didn't get another one, but then added on that he spent even more later on in a different stream. So that might be an accumulated total for the same streamer. But yeah, some of these streamers that have the scratch to actually do it are trying to see exactly how much money they have to throw into this game to get something. And in some of them, it's even said that it's calculated that it could cost up to $110,000 to fully upgrade a character in the game.
You see, I'm really, really stingy when it comes to microtransactions and certainly play to win types of schemes. I don't drop anything. Like, I don't buy loot boxes or anything like that. I'm hardly any cosmetic items, to say the least. But I just I'm not a big fan of those types of like, again, those microtransactions, right? And
So at least not to keep me in the convo, but when it comes to ESO, I do participate in loot boxes generally when I have had a few drinks. They have a section, it's called Crown Crates. You can buy crates that will randomly give you in-game upgrades, whether it's potions or stuff that you can apply to your mounts, but you can also get really great cosmetics all the way up to extremely rare, very eye-catching mounts. I mean, like I have polymorphs on my character that I literally have people stop and they're like, where did you get that? And when you tell them you have to get it out of a crown crate, you get that, oh, you got to basically play the slot machine. And yeah, sometimes they spit out really awesome objects. Other times you're just like, well, that sucks. But that's definitely if you have, I guess, disposable income. But it's interesting because you asked me, Invader, what would happen to this game if Microsoft got a hold of them? And that's where I wanted to show you something. That's where it gets really interesting with how Microsoft decided to, if anybody has ever gone in and looked at Microsoft's terms of agreements when it comes to their stance on loot box policies, they do have it published online. And I'm highlighting it right now on my screen because you can't see it, obviously. But line item 2 states, items and loot boxes can always be earned through gameplay. All items available through paid loot boxes in our games will also be available through unpaid opportunity by gameplay, i.e. grinding. And to prove that this happens with Microsoft games, shortly after Microsoft acquired ZeniMax Bethesda, because I play ESO, this is what happened to my own game. Obviously, this was on April of 2021. For the first time, Elder Scrolls Online will let players acquire loot box items without paying real world money. And that's when the Endeavor system was actually created in ESO. They were actually, from what it looks like, the stuff I have read, as soon as Microsoft made the acquisition, ZeniMax was required to implement this Endeavor system into the game because of Microsoft's stance on loot boxes and the fact that crown crates needed to be able to be earned through in-game currency. And so, yes, as of April of last year in 2021, there has been a system implemented into ESO to earn all this stuff through gameplay, and it's not through obscene amounts of grinding. And that's where it's going to be really interesting in the long run when Microsoft gets a hold of Blizzard, what they're going to do to this game, because basically this game goes against a lot of their policies on loot boxes, and it's going to be very interesting.
Well, it's interesting that you mention again one of the ZeniMax studios, because, well, even Bethesda, because with Arcane, for example, they're doing Redfall, and some sleuths had noticed they were comparing Redfall and an older build to one of the more current ones that we just seen, and they were noticing a microtransaction system that would have been in place, and it looks like they've taken it out entirely from the looks of it. So I mean, I'm assuming that would have to be a Microsoft's influence on that from what you're saying. So,
and if that's the case, then obviously, could you imagine how people would feel if Microsoft just flat out came, got on stage? We're delaying Redfall because there is an asinine amount of microtransactions that we feel that do not belong in the game. So the game is going to be delayed and overhauled, and they are going to be removed. You would probably hear applaud.
However, I mean, if we got enough Mai Tais in you, I mean, I don't know, you might be spending,
Dude, the most stupidest thing I ever did on ESO, I used to get these cards from Google. They would basically, when you did stuff for Google, they would pay you in these stupid gift cards. And yes, I used a $50 gift card to buy a house in ESO.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all heard worse things, right? So
Right. But I still, but that's why I will be truthful. That was we were having a Christmas party here. I had a few drinks in me and I thought, what the hell? And the funny part is that has been our guild hall ever since.
oh, all right. Well, I mean, at least there's some kind of history behind it, and you can all kind of have fun, and at least you don't feel like you really, really wasted anything on it, right? So, well,
Nope. I get to live in a magic little snow globe.
all right. Hey, there you go, guys. There you go. But you love the heck out of Elder Scrolls Online, anyways. So, I mean, hey, guy, you know what? If that's your thing, all the power to you, man. All the power to you. Curious about some other thoughts on the panel. MLD, I mean, obviously we're talking about these microtransactions here with Diablo Immortal, all the backlash. I know that when Diablo Immortal first got announced, and it was announced as a mobile game, fans were not happy. They were not happy in the first place that this game was, coming out only on phones, and everyone was like, "Oh, can we play it on PC?" And then the developers were like, "Oh, but don't you have a phone?" It really insulted people. But you see the reviews, you see the fan backlash. Like, what do you think of this whole situation here?
Okay, well, I mean, I'll get the good out of the way. Apparently, they say it plays similar to Diablo 3. Like I played Diablo 3 with a couple friends, and I had a good time with that. So if they managed to recapture that magic for the most part, then okay, that's one good thing to say. And I do believe that if it's a free to play game, you should have like a profit business model to compensate for that. But given all the
MLD?
evidence,
Not to interrupt you real quick, but I guess that there's a good game there. But it's the fact that literally you'll be playing the game and it will freeze and it will start trying to sell you something in the middle of gameplay.
oh yeah, I'm sure. Like yeah, like I was just about to say, like from what I'm hearing, it's egregious and like way too egregious. Like they're pushing their luck egregious. So I don't support that. So I'm not going to play the game as a result of that until there's changes that are implemented. What I also don't agree, well, I not agree with, but I don't understand. Like you get these popular streamers dropping like 10,000, 15,000. You hear these stories out there. You, I know you want to do it for the science. You just want to get to the bottom of things, but you're just rewarding a broken system. Like you are literally giving a company money for something you don't agree with just to prove the science or to prove the math or numbers. Like that's not. I don't think that's the way you should go about it by rewarding a broken system. I feel like, and these are just the stories that we know about. Imagine all the other people that don't have a platform on social media that are dropping hundreds or thousands of dollars. I don't know. I feel like there's better ways to go about, voicing your frustrations than actively giving thousands of your own hard-earned dollars. But that's just me. But that's neither here or there. Point is, though, I think what was said about Elder Scrolls Online when Microsoft took over, I think that's going to be the same thing because Microsoft, they're pretty good at reading the room these days. Like if there's backlash online, they're going to address it. They're not going to ignore it. They'll nip it in the bud. That's what I think they'll do in this case as well. Like I think it's a simple matter of increasing the percentages, lowering the costs, like little things like that, but overall make a big impact. Like that, just so you spend less money, but the grind's not as bad. You get good items no matter what money you put into the game. Like I feel like that wouldn't take a lot of time to implement. But it has to be done. 100% it has to be done. But that just means we gotta wait till the buyout is official. So that's where I stand right now. I'm gonna wait for this buyout to come through and for them to announce changes. And when the changes do come, because I played free to play games in my past as well, and I do give the developers some money here and there because if it's a fun game, I'll throw some money their way just out of respect because like they gave me a great game. Yeah, I feel a little bit guilty just paying nothing. Yeah, I put hundreds of hours into a game, so yeah, I'll support the developer when I feel like they deserve it. So when the changes actually come, then I'll revisit this game and see if they deserve some of my money. But so that's where I think it stands. Right now, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. I certainly wouldn't recommend, spending thousands of dollars to try and get the best loot, for a digital game. I would just say to hold off and just wait for change to happen. That's the best way to get change, in my opinion. Not to like, just don't play, and eventually change will happen. So that's my stance on it. Because beneath all this stuff, it is a fun game, from what I hear. So that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Well, it's funny too, MLD, because I mean, it is a free to play game, and obviously they're supposed to make money in their microtransactions. But at the same time, it's like the way that they're going about the microtransactions. It's just you're forced to go to them in a lot of cases, right, to get the best loot and so on to progress. And it just kind of, from what I'm to understand, it just kind of makes it almost game breaking in that way, right? So it just doesn't sound like a very fair system that they set up for this free to play title, which is unfortunate because, like you said, the gameplay seems fine. It looks like a pretty decent looking game too on mobile. It's just they made a very aggressive, like, again, pay to win system here, and I don't know, it's not very consumer friendly, unfortunately. Yeah, so I mean, again, hopefully Microsoft can get a hold on these things and tell them to clamp down once they're under their umbrella. Eric, buddy, I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know if you've played the game yet or are interested in it. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk online about this. Over the past couple of weeks, it's been a little bit of a hot topic. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Not much, then, other than it's just mobile game, and that's what mobile games do. Although it reminds me of when Diablo 3 first dropped on PC, and a lot of people were pissed about the always online feature, or like their auction house, where you basically had to, if you didn't go through the auction house, you weren't going to find, like, it would be very rare that you'd find the really good in-game like materials or in-game armor and weapons. But they actually had a non actual, like, they basically had like a Monopoly money version of auction house, and they had the other auction house where you could actually pay real money for those items. So they did kind of split that up, but kind of gives me those vibes. But yeah, hopefully they improve that, but I don't really have much interest in that other than playing Diablo 4 when it comes out, because you'll be able to play that on your phone anyway, streaming that game. Although that would be a terrible way to play it. But unless maybe you had the control, obviously on-screen controls would be probably awful. But yeah, I don't have too much interest in it, so hopefully it proves for the people that enjoy it. But yeah, I'm sure Microsoft, like Centurion already pointed out, will probably help improve based off like that guideline. So
yeah, I mean, Centurion, we got Diablo 4 releasing. I mean, I think it's next year from what I remember. To me, it just seems like a scenario where, I mean, they are making money off of this, but it's kind of been a little bit of a PR nightmare for them in some ways, Blizzard, and they don't need any more of those. That's for sure. Do you think they just want to, like, kind of sweep this under the rug eventually and just move straight into Diablo 4 and putting out news for that?
Probably, more than likely. I think it's interesting how Shockley mentioned the auction house, because when you listen to the actual Diablo fans, the ones that are making content online that have been playing like since it first came out, like my brother, a lot of them are excited for Diablo 4, but a lot of them are worried about just how egregious the microtransactions are in this mobile game. And that they're really worried that, because they didn't mention that all the microtransactions in Diablo 4 are going to be mostly cosmetic based. But I guess the cosmetics of the game are a big deal to Diablo players. And they're worried that without a system like the auction house, done well, it could turn into another situation where people are paying a lot of money and potentially have situations where they're almost like gambling trying to get certain cosmetics. And that's where there's a lot to debate if you're a Diablo fan on exactly what Diablo 4 is going to have in it.
Yeah. Again, going forward, I'm not saying that I'm the biggest Diablo fan out there, but going forward, I have a lot of good hopes for the Diablo franchise moving forward, especially again with Microsoft's backing. I just hope that again they've learned from this scenario. Hopefully, they're able to adjust some things, aspects and whatnot with their system with Diablo more, make it a little more fair going forward. But most Diablo fans are looking forward to Diablo 4 in the long run. Actually, they don't have that much longer to go. And I mean, we're going to have a lot of, hopefully a lot more to see from Blizzard from that. But they could use some good news right now. I think that's for sure. But okay, guys, I think we'll close out that topic and we'll just start closing off tonight's show. And again, I have to say, I love the commentary across the panel, across the board. Nicely done, gents. Honestly, I thought we had some really good commentary there. Tonight, we went over the Xbox Extended Showcase, Capcom's Showcase, Diablo Immortal, the Final Fantasy stream, and a little more, of course. And to all our wonderful viewers, if you enjoyed tonight's show, then please consider leaving us a like, sharing this content out, and of course, sub to the channel if you're new. We'd love to have you stick around, of course. The more the merrier, right? And of course, again, just to top it all off, happy Father's Day to all the wonderful dads out there, whoever, popped into the show. Again, you guys kick butt. But with that out of the way, let's move over to the outros, starting off with General MLD. Buddy, hey, I loved your thoughts tonight. Where can all these fine people follow you at?
Oh, thank you. You guys can find me at MLD Ghost on Twitter, gamer tag Ghost MLD. You could always hit me up playing this thing or that. But looking forward to next week. Let's see what Xbox has in store for us.
Yeah, buddy, totally agree. And who knows? We might have some other news from across the industry. But hey, always looking forward to some more Xbox news. Down the list here, Eric Shockley, buddy. You had a really solid show as per usual. Loved your takes. Where can all these fine people follow you at?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at Shocknero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, good show tonight. Good topics. And looking forward to rest of these games this summer. Got the Kanaka game coming out, I think next week.
Yeah, it's
Sonic
soon.
Mania. Definitely gonna be. Think I have the day off for Sonic Mania, so gonna be playing that all day. But yeah, good show tonight.
Yeah, good show. And let's see here. Who do we got? Oh, yeah, Mr. Maricopa, Centurion. Buddy, hey, again, you had some really good takes. I mean, you always have some pretty good takes, but again, loved your thoughts tonight, too. Where can everybody follow you?
No, thank you, gents, for putting up with me and having a great conversation. Thank you for helping me close out a great Sunday night conversation about gaming. Thank you to everybody out in the chat. For those interested in finding me, please find me at Centurion1307 right here on YouTube, Twitter, and of course, Xbox Live. You can also find me right here every Sunday night, right on the TXR Podcast. And you can also find me every Wednesday on Gaming Beyond the Box. And that takes place at like 8 Eastern. Yes, I'm getting the time right now.
Yes. That sounds right. That sounds right for that show. And remember to hit Centurion up tonight. Make sure he plays some Elder Scrolls Online. Make sure he gets a few Mai Tais and some Singapore slings in him, and make him, pressure him to buy some more $50 DLC. I'm just kidding, Centurion. I'm just kidding.
Well, DLC, I'd buy DLC, but a loot box.
Just teasing, pal. Just teasing. But oh yeah, I guess to round out things, you guys can find my content on YouTube at Invader Gaming. Also, you can find me on the Bluebird app, Twitter at Invader_1986. Again, excellent stuff tonight, folks, and we look forward to seeing you all here next time. Later, everyone. Have a good one.